out when we practice the HCM, the historical critical method, and we focus on the worldly origin of ideas. So where did this idea of God come from? Well, it came from the Mesopotamians. So the devil, it came from the...
No, but he's the first.
But what I'm trying to say is this. So if you start from, say, an Islamic point of view, or even a traditional Jewish point of view, which is not a European post-Enlightenment concept. So we live in a world which is created by God. There is the unseen realm, which contains what you would call jinn or shaitans or angels and so on. We're not going to look for some kind of literary origin in a Persian for the existence. They exist. And we know this because the data of Revelation tells us this. You see the eyebrow goes up.
Yeah.
Now the eyebrow goes up because and this is a reconciling difference, because if you're looking at it from a secular Western post-Enlightenment methodology, I'm being quite polemical here, you're going to exclude all this and look for the human origins of mere religious ideas, the history of religious ideas. But this is a very secular view. If you start from a different paradigm, the one what I've just described, this brother was trying to describe, actually you're not starting there. The universe is much more than just what we observe through our secular eyes. It has an unseen realm, God exists, prophets do foretell things. But the historical method excludes that on principle. And I think that's a philosophical position. It's an assumption which we can challenge quite readily.
But the way you frame that suggests that the only alternative to a secular approach is the belief in the Abrahamic tradition, but there are other options. So I may be a hardcore Zoroastrian who still agrees that those ideas are transmitted into Abrahamic tradition. So I'm not ring-fenced into that.
No, but I'm saying secularism shouldn't be privileged. Now, I know in the Western Academy they'll say, well, that's how we do things, and this is neutral or scientific. And I'm saying it's not. It's based on a set of philosophical assumptions which exclude what is accepted, which is seen as axiomatic to most of the human race, and always has been. And that's the existence of God, demons, angels, the supernatural. It's open to the unseen realm. So look into the genealogy of these so-called religious ideas as if they're a human construct, which is the presupposition of a lot of this, is invalid from a different understanding of history. Practiced by people like Ibn Khaldun, for example, the famous Islamic historian and sociologist and so on. He had a much more multidisciplinary, multidimensional understanding of history. So you could look at it horizontally, but he's also open to the vertical as well. And I think that's much more interesting and fruitful, because you're not implicitly draining everything of its metaphysical content, which is a philosophical move, which many people don't accept. Do you understand what I've just said?
I understand what you're saying, but even that argument is based on the presupposition of knowing necessarily what my philosophical or religious...
You personally. No, I was critiquing not so much yourself about the historical critical method, which is based on secular premises. And I'm saying that is, as I say, an historical methodology which comes from Western Europe. It's a white, European, male, post-Enlightenment construct. I'm saying reality is much more than that, and we shouldn't, because of the hegemony of the West basically at the moment in universities academically, the way we do it here is how everyone else should do it here. So we're looking at a genealogy of ideas which actually are objective and not human constructs. And this is the problem. I know, but in the West we think they are human constructs. But that is a Western secular philosophical notion. It's not objective. It's not based on facts. That's what I'm saying.
But I think that approach is no less valuable in building a more holistic understanding of the themes and the subject matter. So I think we can look at it from that perspective, and then
I'm not convinced, because if give me
just reject it.
Well, no. Give me an example. In the study of Islam, for example, there's a professor at Oxford called Nikolai Sinai. He's not a Muslim. He's a very distinguished German academic who teaches Islamic studies at Oxford. He's written a book called The Historical Critical Introduction to the Quran, and he says in the introduction, he talks about the historical critical method in the introduction, and he's very clear that practitioners of the HCM do not accept that there's such thing as prophetic predictions, the supernatural, that God intervenes in the world, etc. But you come across a hadith which Muslims accept, where the Prophet actually foretells events in the future, or there's a verses in the Quran that speaks about events that are due to come in the future. The HCM would say, well, they can't be. They're not historical. Predictions don't happen like that. There are no prophets There's just human beings.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're basically, before you even look at the evidence, you're debunking it. You've already ruled it out, a priori. You've got your presuppositions.
Yeah, there are.
And I'm saying that is invalid.
Assumptions, but even coming from an Islamic perspective, you're making assumptions from that perspective as well. So
but indeed, but
it's about weighing them up together, I would say.
But I'm saying
like a multidisciplinary approach.
The claim of the HCM is the claim to be objective, and I'm saying it's not objective. There is some objectivity in it, but a lot of it is packed with assumptions which are toxic to people of faith, and in fact are based on philosophical assumptions that come from European history to do with their rejection of Christianity, rejection of the church, and based on a quite a very secular understanding, which is actually now, our universe is not secular. It's a philosophical lens, and I'm saying there are other ways of doing history. I mentioned Ibn Khaldun, for example, is a massive intellect in the Islamic tradition who had a much richer, multi-dimensional understanding of of epistemology. That's a better model, I would argue, than the secular one.
But to argue that the secular approach is toxic to those views are toxic to someone with a more secular view. So how do we resolve that?
But we don't have that kind of equality. We have the hegemony of the secular paradigm in academic studies in this field. We don't have this problem that there's no we're going to have that doesn't exist.
Right.
If you, I mean, I
can only speak for myself.
No, I was talking to a friend who's doing masters at SOAS. I won't mention who's literally it was after on Friday, and he was doing a course on the Quran. And he was taught that the Quran story about the Noah and the flood are derived from earlier Mesopotamian myths.
Yeah.
Whoa! And I'm thinking, really? Now that's the genetic kind of fallacy because there's a similarity with an older mythological story, therefore it's just myth. You know, maybe there are multiple accounts, and behind those narratives lie a reality, an actual flood that happened in Mesopotamia.
But then there was narratives before the narrative as well.
But the a priori commitment to that
the important question
we have danger. But actually, if one is to investigate those possibilities and then just weigh them up or say, well, look, these are the options. Let's have a look at them and try to be as objective as we can.
But the HCM doesn't allow that because it doesn't. It starts off by saying that prophets who predict the future are not of history. They are to be seen as late. They're mythological. They're legendary. They're not objectively real. I mean, I referenced Nikolai Sinai's book, but HCM doesn't normally allow that because it doesn't allow God's intervention in history as a factor that historians can quantify and say.
But an Islamic approach wouldn't make space for the HCM approach. So they're both as close to each other as...
I think it does, a modified form of historical critical method. So I meant Ibn Khaldun, a multidisciplinary... He was able to look at societies historically in terms of their systems and their ups and their downs and so on, without any reference to revelation explicitly necessarily. But he was also aware that God is in control of history. And that we don't live in a secular world. So he was able to have different registers, different epistemologies. The HCM only has a secular register. So the datum of revelation is simply not taken into account. And Islamically, that is unacceptable because God exists and has given and has spoken to mankind through the gospel and the Torah and the Quran or whatever.
Can I ask an important question? So, you see all these, teachings and concepts in different religions.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned in Zoroastrianism. And it's also available in different religions, like Judaism, Islam. It's the same exact concept. So my question is, with some
variations on
with
feasts,
some variations.
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, if we, for example, take the teachings you mentioned earlier,
of Zarathustra.
Yeah, it first came up in these teachings,
right,
by this person.
Yeah.
That's what I'm struggling to understand.
Who gave it to him? How did it come to him? Is it like
Through revelation? Was it
through
teaching?
meditation? Is it
I believe,
through God? Because you also
It
mentioned
came from something. We can agree on that.
You also mentioned monotheism, meaning that there is one God to worship. So did it come through God?
That there is one creator.
Creator. So did it came from that creator? And if it did came, did it also maybe in some part of history, prehistory to that point, was also some teachings to different civilization, predated that civilization?
I mean, we can speculate on whether those teachings reached other people. I find it sometimes more beneficial just to look at the evidence we have rather than speculating on what may have happened to which we cannot attest with evidence.
We can do that, but I still want to understand where did it come from? Because if it came from a person, no difference than me, why should I accept it and take it?
Well, I would be more interested in the value of the message necessarily than the person.
Forget about the words of a person. You just want to learn if it's valuable.
If there is a valuable
because
message
that's what's timeless. No human is timeless.
If there is a message of value that was revealed 3,500 years ago, let's say, and if that hadn't happened and the message arrived today, would it be of any less value?
So these values are supposed to be like something good for us. Yeah, if we follow it, it will work, and it will bring
I certainly
prosperity,
imagine that the parts of that message that are congruent with the ones that you see in your own belief system, you would agree are valuable.
I didn't even come to this part of
So I'm saying
history or future.
If he spoke about the idea of personal responsibility for one's actions, personal judgment for one's righteous or evil deeds during the course of one's life, if that echoes something that you hear in your own teachings, then naturally you would think that's a theme of value, right?
That maybe not started with these teachings or this.
It may not have started there.
System of belief. It may be natural.
Earlier, and he said
It may
if
be
there's no
natural.
historical proof of it.
Yeah.
Then it's
Then it
just a claim.
started with that.
No historical bit. So this is back to the secular
Maybe it's
methodology
natural.
again.
Natural.
It's only what can be
It's by
verified
nature.
by secular historians that it's true.
I can't comment on evidence I don't have.
So I like to believe or think, not believe or
Right.
think, that could be natural.
So these are your
in
presuppositions.
humans.
Yeah. That's a good word.
Presuppositions,
Think.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
So, what give me proof that this is not something natural in a human to act like this, to take responsibility in his action or their action, and it started with that book.
So sorry, give you proof that say again. Just
How can we verify?
that it's not something natural for man to believe
it
that he'll be
started with
judged
that, yeah.
for his personal actions.
That it actually just
And these
the first
values
ever,
started with this book.
The first ever exposition of that idea was through Zoroaster. How do we know that? That's
No, I don't make the claim that he's the first to have ever said
but
it.
he's earlier than.
However,
He's making a claim.
it seems evident to
But
me
we
that
made,
it's the it's the
earlier we
earliest
made the
record
claim
of this
that
claim.
other religions
Yeah.
took from that, or like
Well, I would have to
shaped
build a case for that. So I kind of began to do that with the timing of certain new statements in the biblical corpus, which seem to coincide with the arrival of a new group of people and then the development of those ideas during that period. I mean, you can take it or leave it, but
that's
seems
the whole
like
point
an
of Speaker's Corner,
interesting.
though. That's the whole point. Of
It
Speaker's
seems
Corner.
like an
Take it or
interesting
leave it.
path of investigation, perhaps to try to build a coherent thread of events.
I have no problem.
I think the problem is if one's looking at the genealogy, the origin of these ideas, on the human level, because you will believe the existence of demons and Satan, for example. If Mesopotamians brought this, Zoroastrians brought this idea across to Judea, it doesn't mean it came from Judea. This is objectively real. These entities exist. They're bearing witness to the truth, or they are evidencing the truth
I think all it
of
shows
these
is
things.
that one group of people believed it,
No,
and then another group
No.
of people came to believe it.
but it says much more than that,
But you're
because
saying they exist.
no, but we know they exist anyway, so that they
How
are.
do you know they exist?
What, you don't?
You believe they exist.
No, it's not a question of my belief. They do exist.
No,
It's not a question of my beliefs or my thinking, any more than I
So what
believe.
are we referring to specifically?
No, it's like saying I believe the sun exists. Well, it's much stronger than that. The sun does exist.
Believing
I can
the
actually
sun
point
exists
to.
with believing angels and
Yes,
demons.
absolutely.
So explain how you would verify that the same way you would verify the sun exists.
Verified. Well, through experience would be one way.
Just put the Quran.
So humanity, well, the accounts of Legion, you can Google it. Humanity has always encountered angelic beings and demonic beings in all religions, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism.
Doesn't get anywhere.
And so this is and also human beings have always experienced the existence of the sun. I would
We're
suggest.
experiencing it now.
Yeah, but yes, but
I'm not experiencing angels and demons.
No. I'm not saying you have to experience 24 hours a day on tap.
I haven't experienced them.
But human beings in general have experienced.
Maybe you haven't came to the awareness.
Yeah, but they claim to see the sun as well.
We are seeing the sun right now. I don't know how you conflate those ideas.
There's lots of things I can't see that I know are real. I can't see subatomic particles. I can't see laws of physics.
We can measure them.
I can't see your consciousness, your mind. Can I see your?
Was there an experiment?
There are lots of things
to measure the existence of or the presence of demons. I think.
He asks how we know. I'm saying that empirically, through our experience, human beings have known the existence of these phenomena always in virtually all religious traditions. Secularism denies their existence because it's a post-Enlightenment Western European white male construct.
I don't reject their existence, but you say you know they exist.
No, I'm saying the secularism. You may not. The secularism does reject them a priori as factors.
Defend secularism per
So
se.
it's a good example. If you look at the Gospels, Jesus portrayed as someone who exorcised demons from people. It's all over the Gospels, and he was a miracle worker. A secular historiography would dismiss all that as myth.
But do you object to the idea of comparing
on this topic
angels and demons with whether the reality of angels
you ask how we knew
things.
things. You ask how we knew things. I'm saying through experience, and we have different kinds of experience.
It's somehow different because
experience
it's
is different kinds of experience, but it's still experience based. Yeah, I can't access your mind. I have no knowledge that your mind is real, and I can't prove that.
Your personal experiences of these phenomena.
Well, we can have a private comment. I can talk to you about these things, but it is very widely attested in the literature. For example, in the book, William James's book, The Varieties of Religious Experience, a seminal work of the early 20th century. He's a pioneer of psychology. Hang on a second. Can I ask you, as I'm trying to explain?
Sorry.
And he's a psychologist, and he narrates a lot of these things, some numerous accounts across a wide variety of different backgrounds of people. So it is a very frequently attested experience. I'm saying Western secular methodology tends to exclude that as a valid source of knowledge about the real world out there. And when it comes to, say, religious works like the Gospels, where Jesus is portrayed as exercising people, it will typically not see these as actually real objective experiences, actual accounts of what Jesus did. And I'm saying that is to betray the reality of what it could well have been real. It could have been made up stories, but in principle they could have happened, actually. The secularism will always reject them.
Everyone can agree on that it could have happened.
Yeah.
Everyone can agree. That's one thing everyone.
The secularism will reject it as historical.
It would reject it, but
thank you. That's my point. It would reject it.
that's far away.
to verify?
But hold on, they could be real. Is a mile away from. We know they're real. That's a different statement.
An openness to reality is not something I've noticed in secular writers on this subject. And the example of demons is always now in our materialist West explained away as a function of mental illness or disturbance or hallucination. And that again is a materialist prejudice, a secular prejudice against a phenomena that is widely evidenced and known in mankind. And this is doing a disservice to the truth, because demons and angels, they do exist.
Yes, they do.
So
Okay,
this
let
is
me
the
ask
problem.
you.
We'll agree to disagree.
You don't
Okay, we can
believe
disagree,
in
that's fine.
magic and witchcraft. Then
Thumbs up from the back there.
you don't believe. So there is no such.
I don't
act,
believe in that.
Oh,
such an act to do magic
I don't believe in
and
demons.
interact with
We have to
this.
define what a demon is.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? No, come on. We're all when they say demon, we're all like disagreeing with each other, but we all
What
kind
about jinns
of
then?
we all
Jinns. You
agree.
don't call them jinns, right?
Who's you lot?
Muslims.
He's not a Muslim. He's got a beard, you're a Muslim, right?
You know what I mean?
Sorry, I do apologise.
No apology needed.
Because I don't like that either.
Easily done.
Sorry,
Don't worry.
exactly.
But don't the Muslims believe in jinns?
Yes.
Yeah? And what are jinns to you?
Do you believe in jinns?
Do I believe jinns are
Demons, devils.
Are they
You get good and bad jinn, can't you? You can get
so
good
you and him are in
communities and
agreement with
bad.
that then?
Yeah.
You and the brother here is on
Yeah, I agree they exist.
Yeah, the unseen realm actually exists and it actually interacts with this world and changes things. People have encounters with demons and angels. They make a difference, and there's masses of evidence that this happens in the world. The evidence is there. We don't want to see it in the West because it goes against our materialist prejudices about the nature of reality. I'm saying reality is different from the Western paradigm and includes all of these areas of life which do make a difference in the real world. Those of us who believe in God and believe in the unseen have experienced this stuff.
I'm talking away, bro.
Billions of people have.
I mean, just from a personal perspective, I don't rule out the idea of a spiritual realm or higher dimension, whatever you want to call it. I don't necessarily just ascribe to a given description of what that is. I don't think we can just define it or defer to some revelation.
No, I'm saying we shouldn't accept what the Western paradigm does. It explains it away as psychiatric illness and so on. I'm saying that is erroneous and based on a false understanding of reality. It's not that the West doesn't recognize it. It does try to debunk it. It falsifies it. That's my problem. It's much more hostile than just saying, "Oh, we don't know." It actually goes out and says to people, "If you testify to these things, you will be referred to a doctor." That's my problem.
Can I ask you a simple question, right?
Sorry, everyone wants to comment. Yeah.
Brother Paul, how are you?
Listen to the question, big man.
Oh,
where does dreams come from?
Big man.
Where do what come from?
Dreams.
Where do dreams come from?
We had this discussion earlier. I suspect they're like a
Projection
function of the brain.
Function of the brain.
We had this discussion earlier about the dreams, like whether it's reality.
It may be a portal to some like a spiritual dimension.
You know, the best way to look at all of these things is, you know, like the spiritual realm, the spiritual realm, the unseen. I'm a Muslim as well. Is that before, like, for example, the simple way to go about it is this. Now, why do we believe in the unseen as Muslims? Fundamentally, it's because we believe in the prophethood of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Now, if the Prophet, peace be upon him, tells us that there's something called a jinn, or there's something called heaven and hell, then we believe in him because we believe in the evidence for his prophethood. Once you establish evidence for his prophethood, then whatever he says is the truth.
I didn't even realize you were here.
Let me just finish, yeah?
He's not a Muslim, by the way. He's not a Muslim.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he doesn't accept the premise of your
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
the best way to, like, instead of saying, "Oh, do jinns exist or not?" the best thing is the one who tells you about jinns, who's the prophet, ask the question: is he a real prophet? Because if you argue that he's a real prophet, and the deduction follows that he is, with all the evidence that he comes with, then whatever he says after that is all true. Because
How do you determine if he's a true prophet?
That's a good question.
That's a much bigger question, but I'd rather defer to this gentleman's approach, which is to defer to
Experience. Yeah, it's an empiricist approach. I'm not denying revelation. I'm just saying that there's also a wider appeal here to experience. Yes, I agree.
So I love the Bible. That's what
Can I ask you that?
As a Christian.
I want to ask the brother two questions because he's saying about the prophet. I want to get his understanding of life. Another one, ask him his age, and then I'm going to ask him the same thing. You feel emotions, you have dreams, and where do they come from?
Listen. You got love for it, yeah. So obviously you got love for the Quran and Prophet Muhammad.
I got a love for the Bible and the prophets of the Bible. Go on.
The true meaning behind it is it's not proof. But you're saying there's proof of the Bible because of admiration.
No, because it's been fulfilled. It's prophecies that's been fulfilled.
But you're admiring it now.
Yeah, I'm admiring it now because it's prophecies that haven't been fulfilled that are being fulfilled now.
It's not about admiration.
You understand?
It's about believing logically it is the truth.
Does it not come down to how do you tell someone my book is better than your book? Please don't. How do you tell someone?
I'm not telling you.
It
was too better than false.
Let's go to that.
Yeah.
The Quran says,
That's a
قُلْ
prophet
هَاتُوا
1,000 years ago.
بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Like, bring your evidence if you're truthful.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything is based on evidence, you know. Now the Quran says, that if you don't think that this book has been revealed from God, then produce a chapter like it. Yeah. So there's evidences which I'll continue from that are external to the Prophet and the Quran that prove the prophethood of the Prophet. For example, one of them is the historicity of the Quran. the Quran contains historically accurate information that was impossible to know at the time of the Prophet.
That's what I made the claim to you earlier, but you said to me.
Number two, there's prophecies of the Prophet and the Quran, prophecies.
I'm not here to.
I'll hear your claim. You know what I mean? And I'll respect it. And I'll tell you the same thing. There you go. Like you can say that. That's fine.
You to challenge.
But I'm not. He's telling me why.
By insects. I think that's it. Thank you. Am I free of insects?
I'll give my subjective belief. But I don't classify myself. You know what I mean?